We're going to finish up the parallel proofs that we started on Friday. So we have more parallel lines. So we have parallel lines cut by a transversal, and we're talking about alternate interior angles. That's what we're trying to prove. So the short version of that we wrote down on the page above, this is just reversed. If they're parallel lines, that implies that alternate interior angles are congruent. So if you look up above, it was alternate interior angles imply parallel lines. This is just going the other direction. So this is a really short proof. We have parallel. I need to know what that means. It would help if I could spell it. Parallel lines, and we're trying to prove congruent. So when you look at angles 1 and angle 2, and you go back and look at the diagrams that we drew next to all of the theorems above, these are alternate interior angles. They're on opposite sides of the transversal and inside the two parallel lines. So these are alternate interior angles. So then we use, because I know they're parallel, that's given to me, that's where that little arrow comes from, then I can say parallel lines implies alternate interior angles are congruent. That's it. You're just stating what you know. Because the lines are parallel, the angles are congruent. All right. This time we have parallel lines, and we're looking at the alternate exterior angles. So the short version is going to be parallel lines implies alternate exterior angles congruent. Again, short proof. I know parallel. I'm trying to prove congruent. So here's my parallel symbol telling me that those lines are indeed parallel. Here's my transversal. These are on opposite sides of my transversal, and they are outside of my parallel lines. That makes them alternate exterior angles. So, parallel lines implies alternate exterior angles are congruent. You're just telling me what we've talked about for the last 3 weeks. They're congruent because they're parallel lines. It's just how we phrase it. All right. This time we're looking at corresponding angles. Looking at the location of the angles. Again, there's my symbol for parallel lines. That's what tells me that. My angles are in the same position at each intersection. So at this intersection, we're at top left, and at this intersection, I'm at top left. Those are corresponding angles. Again, I know parallel, and I'm trying to prove congruent. So the short version of this is parallel lines implies corresponding angles are congruent. That's what I'm given. I'm giving parallel lines. I know they're parallel, and I know the position of those angles is called corresponding. They have to be congruent based on that definition. So parallel lines implies corresponding angles are congruent. So when I'm just asking you to justify it, it's just one line. Like, what else do you need to know? Now, this time we're dealing with supplementary angles. So it's all the same theorems, just supplementary. So the short version for this would be parallel lines implies same side interior supplementary. Let me go back and add the angles are supplementary. Because remember, another word for consecutive interior is same side interior. Now, what does that look like? Here's my transversal. These angles are on the same side. They're both on the left side. Here are my two parallel lines. Those are both in between or inside my parallel lines. That's how I know that these are same side interior angles. So given parallel lines and trying to prove supplementary, that's all it is. How do I know that these are supplementary? Because you said they were parallel. Here's where you showed me in the diagram that those are parallel. Because they're parallel, that has to be the relationship that exists. So, parallel lines implies same side interior angles supplementary. Now, don't forget that supplementary means that it equals 180 degrees. So they're not the same value. They just have that relationship. Last one. At least last one of the theorems. So this time, consecutive exterior. So that's same side exterior. That's what another thing that we've called it. And all the same stuff. Parallel lines, I'm trying to prove supplementary. Here's where it tells me my lines are parallel. So if this is my transversal, these are on the same side. If these are my parallel lines, these angles are both outside the parallel lines. So these are same side exterior angles. So the short version of the theorem is parallel lines implies same side exterior angles supplementary. So when I have to prove it, that's what we're going to get. So to prove that 1 is supplementary to 7, that means that together both angles equal 180 degrees. Because I'm given parallel lines, that implies same side exterior angles are supplementary. It's just justifying with words what we've been talking about this whole time. All right. This last problem is a little bit of a trick. Not a lot, but a little bit. So the first thing we have to do is I need to draw a third line. And I need to draw it parallel to A and B, and it needs to go through the unknown angle. In this case, angle C. So let's see if I can draw a straight line. That's pretty straight. And so we start with that I know those lines are parallel. So A and B are parallel. And I just drew C to be parallel to A and B. So that's my first thing. And we're going to call this line L just because. Now, we have A parallel to L, which is parallel to B. So all the way around, all of our lines are parallel. So when I look at, let me change colors here. When I look at these two lines, so A and L, what are these two angles? These two angles that I've circled, those are same side interior. Now, so that means that these have to equal, these have to equal 180 degrees. So I have, this is 180 minus 100, which is 80. So this piece is 80 degrees. That's this angle right here. Now, looking at the next set of angles, so we're going to look at line L again here, and we're going to talk about it in relationship to B. And these angles are what kind of angles? These are alternate interior angles. That means that they're congruent. That means that this piece is 40. So the measure of angle 1, actually we'll call it angle C because that works better for me, of angle C, which is this angle right here, the measure of this angle is those two pieces that we just found. So that's 80 plus 40, that's 120 degrees. So we're just using all the ideas that we came up with. This problem uses our proofs in application. You have to know that those are supplementary. You have to know that those are all congruent. And the other ones are just stating that. So after you finish your notes and you submit those into the link from today, we'll have both Fridays and Mondays, today's notes in one place. Then you will do the practice that's available to make sure that you are ready for the study guide and the review that we're going to do Tuesday and Wednesday so that you can pass your assessment.